Hey guys, welcome back to the Friday Vlog, where we discuss activity that goes on here with the BuzWeaver channel. That includes things like current events, headlines that are in the news, pop culture, social media, technology, and items of interest that come up during the week that allow us to have a little bit of a dialogue as you see the shorts, as well as the community posts there on YouTube for all of you that watch on YouTube. But I do want to thank all you guys across New Tech, as well as those watching now on TikTok, for all of your guys' continued support.
We start things off from NBC. Trump considering a major NATO policy shift. The president has discussed possibly favoring members of the alliance that spend a set percentage of their GDP on defense, sources told NBC News. Now, in the background of a lot of what has been happening, at least on my end, in the realm of politics and discussions and Europe, I have been discussing this topic with several individuals, those, of course, that I follow, or commenting in topics about the EU, what's going on with Ukraine, as everyone knows what happened last Friday. And so I just wanted to go over some of the stuff. I'm going to go over it kind of quickly. So at any time you guys want to pause it and take a look at any of this, and this is stuff that we have compiled here on the BuzWeaver channel for quite some time. Washington. President Donald Trump is considering a major change to the U.S. participation in a North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. According to 3 current and former senior U.S. officials and 1 congressional official, Trump has discussed with aides the possibility of collaborating America's NATO engagement in a way that favors members of the alliance that spend a set percentage of their gross domestic product on defense, the officials said. As part of the potential policy shift, the U.S. might not defend a fellow NATO member that is attacked if the country doesn't meet the defense spending threshold, the officials said. If Trump doesn't make that change, it would mark a significant shift from a core tenet of the alliance known as Article 5, which says that an attack on any NATO country is an attack on all of them. And my argument has been for, well, the last few days specifically, I've been trying to point this out, and that is that, you know, the EU and NATO and other members within the, you know, within that group of people have already identified Putin as, you know, obviously the aggressor and the T word. And so my comment was, well, then why haven't they created a casus belli to go after him? I mean, as clever and as witty as these people like to perceive themselves as, right? They like to always be, they go to these posh meetings and they have their little EU forums and they have this, that, and the other. Well, then why aren't they doing more, right? If they're so concerned, why is it now after 3 years they're suddenly saying they're going to start pulling their weight? Now, what I want to do here is kind of review some of the things. Now, we hear about the money, but they also, people rarely ever talk about the amount of equipment that we're sitting there and from our stockpiles. So we've got drones, we got weapons, we have equipment that we're sitting there, right, that we've been doing for quite some time. And then, of course, we just recently sent the approved F-16 jets to Ukraine. Of course, we had to train those pilots to be able to fly those, and the gear and the equipment and the parts and all these things are to go along with having those jets. And something that I pointed out in these recent topics was the countries sending the most aid to Ukraine. And you see the United States at the very top. And, of course, this is equipment, this is gear, this is money. These are even advisors that have gone there. And, of course, we've known from Speak the Truth, a channel that I follow on YouTube, one of the guys that speaks on there, Matt, was over there himself. Now, he couldn't talk about what he was doing over there, but he was over there. And as you can see here, the NATO defense spending. So Trump, again, is trying to tell these countries, no, they got to pull their own weight. They got to be able to, you know, meet those criteria, which I've outlined to people. And they get all upset about it. And they go off in a different direction. Who has donated military hardware to Ukraine? Now, you can see the amount the U.S. has donated. Air defense, multiple launch rocket systems, howitzers, infantry fighting vehicles, and tanks. I mean, they want to talk about the money, and then here we're talking about equipment that gets things done, right? And my point also is, how is it that the Democrats and the left sit over here so comfortably, right? There's no threat to them. Russia isn't at our back door, right? And the thing is, how are they satisfied with the fact that Ukrainians are dying? How is the EU members and these countries in the EU satisfied drip feeding Ukraine at the expense of Ukrainian lives to stick it to Putin? It took 10 years for the fatigue to set on Russia when they were in Afghanistan, for the people to say, look, we're tired of this. 10 years. Do you think the Ukrainian population can support another 7 years of conflict? It's absolutely extraordinary. And the thing is, the United States voted for Donald Trump for a reason. And we're going to start listening to some of these videos, and we're going to kind of start compiling this all together. But at any point you want to pause during those images, you're welcome to do so.
Do Americans like the way that Trump's handling his job and compare it to how they felt about Joe Biden? So this is the net approval rating. You look at Joe Biden back in 2024, he was 22 points underwater. Holy cow. You look at Donald Trump, it's just a different planet entirely. I mean, the gulf between these two is wider than the Gulf of America or Mexico, depending on which side of the aisle you stand on. He's at +2. So look, at this particular point, Americans are giving Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt. He's doing considerably better than Joe Biden was doing on the handling of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. And so on this simple question, I think Americans are saying, okay, Donald Trump's doing all right on this.
You know, and they made a big deal about the ruckus that took place there in the Oval Office. And then NBC back in 2022 was talking about Biden saying essentially the same thing that Trump said, that he wasn't grateful for what was happening, but Biden was concerned that he was going to get pushback from the Americans because of the amount of money that he was sending. And I don't have that video prepped here from the BuzWeaver archive, but I did post it on X. So if you guys haven't already, of course, below the video, you can find the various social media links that I belong to, and you can follow me across any of those, and the new ones, of course, being TikTok. But nonetheless, yeah, I mean, so we're going to move on because we're moving on along. Now, this was after the speech to the joint session of Congress, or the joint session, right? So we have In Wokeness, CBS instant poll on Trump's speech. Now, this was just what they did that night. 76 approve. And then we got CNN's instant poll with 69 positive. And this is what was interesting, is CNN did a focus group. And everyone there, I don't know whether those people were from Pennsylvania or Michigan. I don't remember what state they were from. But every one of them agreed with Donald Trump. And they even went so far as to even talk about eggs and egg prices and the slaughtering of the chickens because of bird flu and so forth. And that they did not blame Donald Trump for the egg prices. They didn't really, the lady didn't blame Biden either. But the fact is that Trump's approval is undisputed, right? So CBS News YouGov poll after Trump's speech, 77 support his plan to cut government waste and spending. And you guys can see all these other ones, so I'm not going to sit here and read each one. But look at this, 73% support his stance on Russia and Ukraine. So this argument and conversation about Russia and Ukraine, how is it that the Democrats and the left, how is it that these people who for years, you know, even go back to the Vietnam War, were constantly fighting for peace, as they said, right? Give peace a chance. And all these, I mean, you guys saw the demonstrations and the shooting at Kent State. All these things were unfolding. And now all of a sudden, once the Establishment Uniparty sold them on the idea, or the Establishment Uniparty military-industrial complex sold them on the idea of how much money can be made, then suddenly Obama's like, okay with it. And then now the Democrats have become, you know, acclimated to it. It's extraordinary, isn't it? And look at some of the media coverage before and after. You have The Guardian, welcome to Ukraine, the most corrupt nation in Europe. Oh, really? Okay, Guardian. Reuters, Ukraine's neo-Nazi problem. Oh, boy, that's an issue. Vox, a Ukrainian comedian turned president is embroiled in Trump's impeachment mess. And New Europe, Ukraine's president rule becomes increasingly corrupt, authoritarian. So it's amazing, isn't it? And then afterwards, you have The Guardian, fight for Ukraine, a fight for liberal ideals. Really? And then Reuters, for foreign fighters, Ukraine offers purpose, commandeering and a cause. Camaraderie and a cause. It's absolutely, I can't hear out of my right ear. I've got my biannual, every 4-year ear jam deal with buildup in my ears. I'm getting it all cleaned out stuff. Sorry if that freaked anyone out. But yeah, I can't hear out of my right ear right now. And then we have this from the Danish Prime Minister. This is incredible. This is incredible.
I don't think we should panic, but I think we are in a hurry. And I think we have been in a hurry for 3 years, but now we really have to scale up. Okay,
that's buffering. For some reason, Twitter does that. It's a buffering on their side, so you guys don't have to make any adjustments or make any changes to your connections or refresh your browser or anything. This is just the connection, so just bear with me.
To speed up, because Russia and Putin is not only threatening Ukraine, but all of us. And we have to be able to defend ourselves. My idea about Ukraine is the same as it has been now for 3 years, that they have to win this war. And if we allow Russia to win the war, I'm sorry to say it directly to all of you, he will continue and they will continue. And maybe we will even give them a better situation than today, because if we end this war now with some kind of a frozen conflict, a ceasefire, it will give Russia the possibility to return to Russia, to mobilize more funds, people, and maybe to attack another country in Europe. I don't think...
Now, what she's saying is not incorrect, and I don't entirely disagree with her. But the thing is, if they're this concerned about what Russia is doing, and of course, just like them, I want all the areas of Ukraine returned back to Ukraine, including Crimea. That's a huge, gigantic, probably extraordinary, unrealistic ask. But I agree with them on that too. I am in no way happy about what Putin is doing in any way, shape, or form. I want everyone to know this. I'm not content about it either. And the idea that they can wait this out like in Afghanistan, that took 10 years for the Russians to get fatigued on this, is unacceptable. But if the EU wants to step up, right? If they want to step up and start doing stuff, I don't object to that. But have a reason, have a purpose, have an objective, have a goal to be able to remove Russia. And I'm not sure how much Russia would escalate if this were to happen, but there's a lot going on. But the EU doesn't like to get their hands dirty. They like to talk. They like to have their conferences with their catered meals. They like to have all the posh stuff. But when it comes down to doing the action, comes down to doing the work that needs to get done, they're very, very, very reluctant to do that. And here is Harry Eaton again, Harry Enton again.
Holy Toledo, look at this trend line here. U.S. support for Ukraine is too much. Back when the war began, back in February of 2022, it was just 7%. Up like a rocket ship, my goodness. Up now in February of 2025 to 41%. And the clear majority of Republicans, and of course Republicans are in charge of the U.S. government now, 62% of Republicans say that the U.S. support for Ukraine is too much. What a difference.
I want to pause it here to emphasize what he just said, and that is true. Remember, Trump won the popular vote, he won the Electoral College, and the GOP won the House and the Senate. And the House controls the money. So this is why the Democrats are in total disarray and completely collapsing. They're making all the challenges they can with judges. They're activist judges out there, but they are failing and they are losing. And the EU can see this. Canada can see this. Mexico can see this. They can all see that they have little leverage to this outside of going in front of the cameras, shouting and screaming and trying to tell their base. Basically, they're going to their base to pander and to show their base that they're resisting, right? And in reality, behind closed doors, they're absolutely freaked out and probably pleading with Donald Trump, just like the EU is doing and NATO.
Just 3 years ago, I can remember, John, all those backyards in the United States with those Ukrainian flags. Far fewer of them today, as Americans' opinions on Ukraine have changed dramatically.
What about opinions of the Ukrainian president?
Right. You know, obviously, if you would expect changes amongst the public on feelings towards Ukraine, feelings towards Zelenskyy have changed also dramatically. Look at this. Confident Zelenskyy will do the right thing when it comes to world affairs. Back in 2022, it was the clear majority, 72% through the floor. Through the floor by 2024, just 48% of Americans say that they're confident that Zelenskyy will do the right thing when it comes to world affairs. And GOP confidence has also plummeted dramatically. Now the clear majority of Republicans are not confident that Zelenskyy will do the right thing when it comes to world affairs. Really a real trend line, ones you rarely see in the American public when it comes to Ukraine and Zelenskyy. Confidence in both going down through the ground.
Look, some allies of President Trump have targeted Zelenskyy with harsh criticism over the last few years, and it could be that that's having some impact here.
Absolutely. The Republican establishment, the Republican electorate has moved as the Republican
leaders have moved. All right. Establishment.
Let's talk about
the Republican
idea
establishment.
of a peace deal. And the way you ask this matters, but go ahead.
The way you ask it is important, so we can talk about this a little bit. So the poll question essentially is, do you support a Russia-Ukraine negotiated peace deal? The vast majority of Americans, this is what they want. 78% say that they support this idea versus just 16% opposed. Of course, as we were talking about, does this question actually get at what's going on right now? I think you would say that it probably does not necessarily get what's going on right now.
No, the question asked, do you support a Russia-Ukraine negotiated peace deal? Ukraine's not there at the negotiations.
Yeah, that's incorrect. They were here. They have been negotiating. That's why they were here that Friday. And this is the terrible advice that's being given to Zelenskyy, right? He's taking advice from Danish Prime Minister Mette, however she pronounces her name. And Ukraine can't sustain this. I kind of empathize with Zelenskyy as he kind of goes back and forth trying to help out his country. It's troubling. It's troubling to see what's happening here because this is falling apart. You know, the United States, people may not always recognize how powerful the president of the United States is. And when you take a look at that power right here, no country can compete with it. And they need the United States. I mean, even Keir Starmer said so. You know, even with them all pulling together, they still need our help. I mean, they simply cannot do it themselves. They don't have it. As a matter of fact, I would argue they become so dependent on the United States, and to an extent Canada as well, they become dependent on the United States to protect them. And so this mindset has changed, especially with Donald Trump, you know, because he's all about, hey, look, if you want us to help you guys out, you got to help us out a little bit in some areas, right? But this is extraordinary. But I welcome your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. What are your guys' opinions and thoughts on how things are going as it pertains to Ukraine and the incidents there? And, of course, your thoughts and opinions on the speech. Any of those things are welcome. And I want to thank all you guys across BitChute, Rumble, and Odyssey, and those also on TikTok for your guys' continued support. Of course, below this video, you can find the various social media links that I belong to. As I mentioned earlier, you guys can take advantage of that, of course. And so I appreciate everyone who does. And you can follow me on X and, of course, on Twitter for additional posting that I do daily. But you guys have been amazing, especially everybody here on YouTube, of course. Man, you guys have been great. It's been an amazing year. But that's what I had for you guys this Friday.
All right, guys. So that's going to wrap it up for this Friday vlog. Thank you for the likes, the shares, and the comments. Below this video, you can find the various social media links that I belong to, so I'd encourage you guys to follow me there. If you order frequently from Amazon or a Prime member, my landing page link is below this video. It helps out the channel and your privacy is protected. Speaking of privacy, I have TrustZone, my favorite VPN virtual private network that I use. It is amazing. If you guys know what I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about. You go to those various cities that you want to fly to or plan events or other things, or even shop or even watch on Hulu and your favorite Netflix streaming service. I was trying to get all that out. And you can go to those various locations and watch those particular shows in those areas. All kinds of neat things you can do with a VPN. But guys, thank you so much for your continued support. Of course, your likes, your shares, and your comments really do, as of now, the way things are working with the algorithm, do help out the channel. So I appreciate all that help, including all of you guys that watch on the BitChute, Rumble, and Odyssey. That helps as well. But it's very curious how it's more specific here to YouTube. But nonetheless, guys, there you have it. And appearing there on the screen, that would be the channel icon you guys can click on if you're watching on YouTube. And that way you can select notifications, and so you'll know when there's content here on the channel. And I'll see all you guys behind the Galaxy phone camera next week.